going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and finally, long awaited. I think it's been a couple weeks now. Had to go through, do a couple things, but finally got a package that I ordered. Ooh, why do I always do that? I'm like down here. We got a package finally that I ordered from Titan Rigs after doing a little bit more research and kind of planning out the loop. Let me update you guys where we are and what's going on with the build. I always hit this. This camera is so sensitive because my fat fingers. We are going to switch up a couple things here. So I kind of made another oversight mistake, I guess you could say. And the EK fittings that I got are 14 millimeters, 14 MMs for the tubing. When I originally did my build over here, version 1, apocalyptic version 1, these tubes are actually 16 MMs, and I was using Bitspower. Now, the reason I made this mistake is because I was not really paying attention, but I had originally ordered the Corsair XT hardline tubing, PTG, I guess, is the, the bendable stuff, but not super clear, not acrylic, right? So when I was looking at this tubing, let me pull one out real quick. So here's the tubing right here, but this is 14 mil, and I wasn't really happy with the size comparison of what it is. I just feel like, that difference in size, while it technically doesn't matter as far as cooling goes, whether you use 14 or 16, there's been other, YouTubers that have done extensive testing on this. The flow arguably is still the same, so you're not going to gain any real benefit whether you're on a 14 or 16. It's more or less an aesthetic. With this much space open and for how much tube we're going to have all over the build here, 16 is just going to look a lot more aesthetically pleasing. So when I was looking at all that, I decided, man, I would rather go 16. Come to find out that I'm not spending the amount of money that I spent already on these fittings here. So I will figure out something to do, whether I do another build for my wife's gaming PC for her streaming setup. It maybe will water cool hers, and since hers is in a case, the 14 mil might not look bad. Otherwise, I mentioned in a previous video that we could go down to Micro Center and see if, the manager wants to work out a deal of, placing some product on the shelf and get them some inventory. I'll figure it out. Or maybe you're interested, if you're seeing this video, shoot me a message. Maybe I still have all these fittings. So I have quite a bit of fittings to do, pretty much a full loop with EK 14 mil fittings for your water cooling system. But with that being said, what I did was I originally used Bitspower, like I said, and these are the fittings that I used. Was the black sparkle from Bitspower. Those are 16 millimeters, so it's going to give us that larger look. I decided in that process, I had some old fittings that I had from the last build, and I'm glad I have these. These are actually 45s. And then, this worked out real perfect right here because I like this look. It looks a lot cleaner already. So what I did is in that box over there, we have some acrylic tubing that I went ahead and went with because I want more clarity, and acrylic is also, while they say it's harder to essentially bend. Let me move the camera back around so we feel like we're being personable again. I kind of told you guys, I'd rather look at you guys while I'm talking versus looking at a box of product. Anyways, it takes longer to heat up, but you can get nice, clean, tighter bends out of acrylic. So I haven't worked with acrylic before. I've only worked with PETG. Right, not acrylic. So, I bought from Titan Rigs, I think I bought 8 total pieces of acrylic that were like 32 inches long, so plenty of extra in case I make mistakes on our bending. I've sat here and I've gone triple checked what fittings I was going to need. So I ordered some new 45 angles, Bitspower sparkle, black sparkle as well. I think it looks clean. It's still, it's very much, it almost matches still the nickel on here, so you can see you almost can't even really tell a difference between the coloring difference. So I think it looks good. It's a nice little offset between everything, and I still went with frosted acrylic as well. So I was able to find that. I forget what company it was that had the frosted acrylic in the 16 diameter. But that is what we went with. So let me get this box unpacked over there, and let's see what we got. All right, we got this stuff unpacked. So here is the 16 mil, and I actually like how much more frosted this is because I plan on running a pretty much a blue coolant. Right now there's no blue in there, but the whole point of the apocalyptic build is my whole theme has always been nuclear. So I'm always going for that blue, that light blue teal color, is, the whole radiation, the effect that you would see in nuclear reactors. That's been my theme. I've always liked that, obviously channel name, MrToX, that's where it comes from. I've just always been kind of obsessed with the way that nuclear reactors look, and that color, pretty much a favorite color of mine. So there is, turn you back around. We got that here. This looks good. I ended up ordering, and this was OC Cool, by the way. I couldn't remember the company name at the time. I ordered, OC Cool had this cool measuring kit. I did have this old one that I used to use from, who's this one by? This was Primo Chill, I think, or Ridge Bender. I used this before, but I kind of really didn't. I ended up really actually using Thermaltake's. I'm trying to think what the hell you would call these stencils, marker, whatever. The tube bending, but the 180 comes in clutch, and then this one right here for the 90s is always what I use. But I mean, 90s are pretty easy for the most part if you actually use like the edge of a desk or something like that. It's not a big deal. But what was always nice about these is you could drill these down to a piece of wood in a shop or something that you're working on this while you're heating the pipes, and then it's got the nice measurements here, so you can mark with a Sharpie and whatnot and get some really nice clean 90s as it goes. So I'm gonna, mess with it. Now, I've already figured out, I think, what I'm gonna do. So instead of just talking about it, let me go ahead and swap out some of these fittings, and then I will show you the fittings that I swapped out. But basically, we're gonna swap out these 90s right here for the Bitspower 90s. And then I will kind of explain, and then I think we'll just dive into getting, I'm going to try to commit in this video to getting the loop done. I might not show all of my work, might just throw a little bit of, take a couple bits here and there and show you guys maybe some epic fails that I did, or show you all the parts of the epic fails that I did after the fact. So one way or another, I'm going to get busy on this. I'll show whatever I show in this next clip. Here we go. All right, so we got that swapped out. So these are definitely a little bit more low profile. I like this. So let me kind of run over what's going on with the loop. I really wish at some point, this block was obviously made for a very specifically in Lee case. And that's kind of where I drew some of the inspiration from, and just the way that I run the current rig up on the wall. I just thought it would be super cool to have, the radiator on that side, the radiator on that side, push it back a little bit more, and, whatever. That is on a TV mount stand on the back, and it kind of does go forward and backwards, so I have room to play to keep, airspace, airflow optimal. These are push-pull system. We've got the fans in the front, fans in the rear. But here's what I'm thinking for the loop, and I only mentioned the block because this will seem kind of weird, but I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see if the pump can actually push through. Otherwise, this whole thing's done. I think it will, for the most part. There's not a whole lot of water volume in here, I don't think, and these D5 pumps are pretty powerful, actually. So let's go over the loop design here. So at the bottom here, we've got our pump, which the water would come in from the bottom of the reservoir, and it pushes out. The first place it's pushing out is right here on this fitting, which is going to immediately go down and make a 90 right into here. So this will end up being a pretty simple bend, I feel like, and it seems like I'm almost aligned, so it shouldn't be too bad. I might have to do a little tweak on the pipe right here to kind of bring it back and then down a little bit, so I'll figure that out once we get there. But so we'll have a pipe coming here. We're going to go up through. This is an X flow rad, so we're going to go up through, and then it is going to come back in. It'll come back down past this fitting here into here. So what I want to try to do, if I can, I'm gonna try to bend the pipe up and parallel this, and once I come out of here, I'll parallel right here, and then we'll come up, and then we'll go straight across right here. This will be like a kind of reverse 90 if you can see it. So it'll be like up, and then it'll bend 90 and that's roughly about 45 degrees right here. So this is a 90 and this is 45. I measured it at a 45 based on our tool back there, our angler. And then, so we will have that pipe here, right? And then it goes through the block and it'll come back down. I was just looking on here in the time lapse if I could, get away with maybe doing a 90 right out of here, because again, acrylic can bend really tight, so I might be able to get away with a 90 coming right out of here, straight down, match the same height plane on here. I want to try to keep everything as parallel as possible based on the height of this block and based on where I am on the radiators. So these are 45s for sure. These are not 90 fittings. These are 45s coming out of here. And I was going to do the same thing here, but I don't know. I feel like the geometry, just to kind of make your eyes look around, would be pretty cool. So anyways, we'll come out. I'm going to try to 90 here. We'll keep the same plane. We'll come down. I'm going to try to parallel these two. So this will be level. Imagine, you got your other run right here. And then we're going to come down and we're going to go straight across. Once I go straight across, I want to put in a flow temp meter. So I'll go straight across. Once I've got that, I'll measure on the pipe what the center is and what the center is to my build here. And then I'm going to put this guy, will be basically elevating in the air so that I could watch active flow. And it is also a temperature sensor as well. I did put a temp sense in the back right here. This would technically be my temp in, and I'm kind of thinking of it. I don't know what the software is going to be like in the motherboard. I planned on running everything on the motherboard, whereas before I'm using the Aguas. It's a German company right there on the bottom, the controller there. That guy currently controls my temperatures in and out, and based on the temperatures in and out, controls the fan speeds on the rad right there, and also controls the pump. Based on some custom mappings that I did there. So I just figured I wanted to keep everything as simplistic as possible. I was going to run that same controller down there as well, but I decided not to. So I'm doing something a little different, risque, because now I've got to actually run the software running instead of running it independently from the loop, or independently from the machine processing. This thing should be plenty though, 7950X. With a 4090, I shouldn't have issues. If I have issues, we've got problems, right? So it should definitely be able to manage everything, so long as, I guess, ASUS's software is actually playing nice, because we've all had struggles with that in the past. I'm sure anybody that's ASUS fan, enthusiast, and I know a lot of us right now are kind of on the fence about ASUS in general, and even EK, right? So just a lot of weird changes going on in the market right now, but hopefully we can all get back to what we love, this right here. We love just building this. This is supposed to be an enthusiast market. Jay's 2 Cents just recently came out with, wow, I do this all the time. Jay just came out with a video not that long ago talking about the water market, the water cooling market, and how far it's strayed from being a true enthusiast market. The amount of money that it costs now, and with just having food on the table, he's 100% right. It's crazy. And I mean, I'm blessed to be in a position that I am to still enjoy this, but make no mistake, I budgeted for this. I didn't just do it overnight, and the cost and even the mistakes that I've made cost me. And believe me when I say I'm either going to try to turn that into a positive somewhere, or I'm going to try to recoup the money. So, and as for the positive, stay tuned. We'll see. But yeah, it is what it is. Again, blessed, very thankful for what I do and in the career that I'm in. So, yeah, that is what we've got going on. And then as far as the piping here, basically, let me finish. So we're going to come out here, we're going to go into here, and then X flow back up to the top. We're going to come out. I'm going to come in, do a little bit of that 45 right here. Whoa, a little bit of 45 right here. I'll match the same plane on here, keep everything at level, nice across. And then it comes back in right here on this will be a 90 here going in. And then this just follows down. This will be the out to the CPU. CPU in, CPU out back over here. And then it comes down, it'll be GPU out to GPU in, and then GPU out, back into the block, repeat the whole process. Now, I was considering skipping this channel right here and just plugging these holes, which I don't think would look horrible. I could even probably top off, put some water in there and just let it sit, but I'd, go stagnant, blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking about, turning this pipe this way and just doing like a tube that would run out here and actually get rid of this 90. I would just do a straight connection here and come up, slight bend over and in, which is kind of very close to what this guy is doing right now. So, we come up out of here and we're going in, which is coming out of the CPU, going into the graphics card, and then out of the graphics card back into the block. But, it was meant to be like a parallel style design. So again, I'm going to get all of these tubes as 90 and perfect as I can. May or may not still use this rotary offset because this block is slightly off compared to what the block was supposed to be. I know that this and this are actually lined up pretty true. I still don't have this fully mounted, so I have room to adjust right now. What I want to work on first is I think that it's important to get these connections done so that I can have the final alignment of this, which I'm pretty sure is true right now. And so once I get these pipes in, graphics card and CPU, I will then start on the radiator bends because that will tell me that that's true and I'm good to go on that and I don't need to worry about it. So, winded. That was a long segment. That was 9 minutes of information looking at the camera, depending on if I edit anything out. I digress. I don't know how much of the work I'm going to show on the acrylic. I'm not going to lie. I'm nervous. I am nervous. It's been a long time. I did pretty decent when I did that guy with the PETG tubing, and I didn't make too many mistakes, but mistakes were made. There's a little bit more complicated bends in here to keep everything nice. I had really contemplated just using fittings and fittings everywhere, but that doesn't look good. So it's going to be a challenge. I will most likely time lapse, set up a camera and time lapse. But again, I don't know how much I'll be effing up. So let's see what I show you guys right now. All right, here we go. All right, guys, welcome back to the build. It's been a long while, and it's been a long while for a couple different reasons, including medical issues. I had to go to ER about 2.5 weeks ago, and from there it was just kind of a downhill BS, and then work got crazy. Satisfactory 1.0 got released. My playthrough is live. You can check that out here. Somewhere comes up there. Let's check that out. But the build has been on the part of tubing. So I got some new PETG tubing in. I honestly don't recall where we left off. I just know that we've got tubing and some miscellaneous cleanup to do, and the build is completely done. So we're just going to treat this video as, wherever. I don't remember what I said. It's been a long time, and again, partially my fault, partially not. Just a lot's been going on. But regardless, my goal today is to get this thing finally booted, filled, loaded. I mean, it's technically loaded from the very first episode. The OS is still good. There's nothing on there that is impending. It's basically still a brand new Windows 11 build. But yeah, blah blah blah, rambling. I had gone with, I know in the last couple of videos I had talked about the other tubing that I had got. It was like a frosted tubing. I made a mistake. Funny, this whole fucking build has been mistakes for the most part. Just the problem is I get distracted with other things, and then I forgot what I did, and I went back, and anyways, I'm paying for it, so I guess I digress. I went with the wrong size tubing, and I wanted a little bit larger tubing so that it kind of filled in the spacing. So we went with a 16 mm instead of a 14 mm tubing size. And then we ordered Bitspower stops because I liked their 90s better. They're a little cleaner. They come straight off. I can come straight in, all that good stuff. So we swapped out all the fittings for Bitspowers because they're just, again, they're smaller, they're sleeker. In my opinion, they look a lot better. So I was having issues with the other tubing, the 14 mil acrylic. Supposedly it was supposed to be easier. Absolutely not. I threw these pieces away. I think maybe I had shown I kept getting kinks in the line. Like, no matter what I did, I got kinks in the line. I tried multiple different things, different approaches. I could not get that stuff to bend as easy as PETG does. And so we've already basically got our line for the GPU right here. And then we've got our 9090 for the CPU outlet. I basically have to do one more here, and then I got to cut and measure to size. So these two are good. We got to make one more 90 to 90 for the CPU inlet. And then we're going to work on our longer runs across the bottom from radiator to radiator into the block, radiator to radiator into the block. So we've got basically 5 more runs to do. And on top of the 5 runs, we're then going to try to install a flow meter, because I don't necessarily have one on the motherboard to do it. So I went with this Bitspower digital flow meter. That will go somewhere about here, centered, and it'll be kind of floating. And then we still have to cut out a grommet piece right here. There is a slot for it on the motherboard, so we'll cut this back and then we'll put the grommet in right there. That's where our graphics card power will go, and maybe a couple miscellaneous cords that I have here, such as the controller for the fans has to go into a USB head. So let's get busy and let's get this damn thing finished. Dogs are just right in the way. She just always has to be right here, don't you, little girl, huh? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that was, whew, let me tell you. We started off with 3 boxes of PETG tube. No, 2 boxes, I'm sorry. And I ordered a 3rd. And I actually have a 4th one coming today, because this bend was the hardest freaking bend ever. You've got a 90 coming out up and then a reverse 90, right? What made it challenging is that the wings are at a 45 degree. So this is a 135 degree right here. The bend had to literally be as close as it could to the 90. So every time I was trying, these are just the ones that were okay. This is the 9th attempt, honestly. So yeah, tube bending can be, interesting. And then this run right here, it was not even across, so I redid this run as well, and I made a nice little jig for this to measure up right here. And I was trying to get both of them to align with the bar right here, but obviously we've got a difference with the offset on the 90s here. So personally, I think it looks good. I'm really happy with it. Arguably, there's another pipe on there that I see. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the overall work, or if anything should change. There was one thing I'm waiting for in the mail. Otherwise, as you can see too, we've got our custom sleeving on here for the power wires that are actually showing. Don't worry about these wires on the side. Those are for the fans and goes to the controller in the back once we button everything up. We are currently pressure testing, and it has been holding for a couple hours now. So the loop is good. The last piece of the puzzle is over here. As you can see, I was working over here, and then I came back over here. I had to get some room off my desk. The last piece of the puzzle is this Bitspower flow and temperature gauge. I do want to run it because I don't have a flow meter like I was saying on the motherboard itself. I don't believe the motherboard can read, I believe it reads the pump Obviously, the PWM from the pump and the RPM from that, but that doesn't give us an actual flow. So I wanted a flow meter, especially since by the time the water would reach it, you've got the pump comes out here, goes into the first rad, comes back up, it comes back across the block here, and then comes back out. So the flow would be reading as it's pressurized into the second rad, and then comes back in, and then it would start our loop into the CPU, out of the CPU, back into the block, into the GPU, back out, and then repeat the whole process. That is the way that this build is. Obviously that distro block is for one of the Lian Li cases. It would have been super cool. At one point I was considering buying my own acrylic bed and redesigning this block completely. That would have been awesome, but you know what? I made do with parts that are on the market, and I still made this custom. And I'm very happy with what we're looking at. Very stoked to get this going. Anyways, I ran out of Bitspower 16 millimeter fittings for this guy, so I ordered 6 of them. They should be here today. They might be in the mail right now. I'm going to go check. And then all I got to do is measure between the feet. I'm going to get the true center of the rig, not the pipe here, and we'll put true center there, and then I will hide this wire by bringing it up and attaching it here. These are our only wires here. I'll try to clean this up and hold it up as much as I can so it's not really seen. I might throw a sleeve on that too, just to get rid of that. I think I've got some heat shrink in the garage, so we could potentially fix that, no big deal. But yeah, she is looking good. Alright, before we button this last part up here, I'm just going to go ahead and show a quick preview. This is all the wires that come in, because the mono block is actually covering pretty much everything right here. I did not get custom wires for the motherboard and the CPU on that side, but we did for the 2-pin CPU there. This extra one is for, I believe it's for the SSD. There's an extra 8-pin there on top of the 24. And then we've got our RTX. We've got 2 SATA connections, one for the pump, one for the flow meter. We've got our controller to the USB for our fans, and then we've got some RGB coming through the back. That is how simple all the wiring is. So let me get this all buttoned up and let's get the power supply on. Well guys, it has been a long journey, but she's still pressure testing. We've got the reader in, we've got the cables hooked up, we've got everything going. I even did the drain plug and re-pressurized the cables in the back. Let's see if I can turn her around. It's hard to see, I know, I'm sorry. I don't have a light over here. Hopefully this is coming through alright, but there's the cabling right there. Nice and minimal. But I've got it over here on my main desk because I am about to plug her in and put our motherboard bypass for the pump on the power supply so that we can prime her and start filling. Unfortunately, I don't have an extra set of hands, so I think I'm just going to put a tripod up, and unfortunately no fancy montage. So let's just check it out. Alright, first power cycle. Oh, this is going a lot differently than I expected. Wow. So either I misread something or I misread something. This is pushing water up this way. Interesting. Alright, so we had to swap out the flow meter. Unfortunately, this was news to me. I honestly thought that this pump pulled in this direction and pushed out to the radiators. So I thought the flow was going the other way. The pump is actually literally pumping up through the graphics card, back out CPU, pushing to the first rad, coming back across, second rad comes back in, pulls from here. So it's pulling from here. So this is the last rad in the loop, which also means I need to switch I've got temp sensors on the bottom of each rad. So I need to switch those as well real quick. But the flow meter that I had was only a single directional. The flow meter that I had is only a single directional, unfortunately. Bummer. I don't know. I tried to look up to see if I could put it upside down and if it would actually orientate, but I don't think so. So I didn't want to chance it. Luckily I did buy this guy. Luckily they are pretty much the same size. We got a little bit of a droop in the line. I am not chancing resizing this. So I'm going to do a little bit more research. I might find another one like that. Sucks though, because I mean, either way, this guy has a built-in meter and this motherboard does have a flow sensor. So technically I've got an in and out temperature, which let me switch these right now real quick while I'm here, because this would now be my out and this is my in. So we'll have an accurate temperature reading of in and out on the radiators. So this is our inlet here. So our temperature would theoretically be higher coming in right here. And then our other temp gauge is down here. So how cold are we actually coming down on the last one? Let me make sure everything's in frame here. Yeah, we're pretty much in frame for the most part. So, all right, fun little learning experience, and I'm glad I had what I needed to. Let's continue filling. I'm gonna have to fix that. That also looks like, so I'll have to redo this bend and bring it out a little bit more to make this guy a little bit more centered, which is a bummer. That is a bummer, but for now, it is what it is. I'm gonna continue. If I have to replace fluid later, we will. It's time to get this rig online. It has been a long time. So that would be a quick fix, really. Getting these bubbles out of here is not going to be fun, but we can see that we've got a really solid flow, actually, obviously. And you can see that we're getting a lot of bubbles out as I'm having to continue to fill here as we're going, so it's good. We're seeing the bubbles come out. The pump is nice and strong, no issue going through the X-rads. Oh, a little bit of back feed there. I'm gonna get in front of the camera here, sorry about that. We've got a high velocity coming out of, you can see this vortex coming out through that pipe right there. It's pretty crazy. Still got a lot of air in here, so just gonna let her kind of go. I'm gonna try to shake her back and forth a little bit. Yep, there we go. We got some bubbles out of there that time. Alright, so I had to make another change. The graphics card definitely requires, I swore when I talked to support, they said you could use either inside, outside, didn't matter which side. You definitely have to either use on the top side, either a left or a right for input output. So we moved the bottom 90 from here to here, adjusted the pipe. It was easy, because if you clog your fill hole, you can cause a vacuum. So it only leaked just a little bit to do that. No big deal there. Well, moment of truth. It's either gonna fucking work, or who the fuck knows. There she is. There it is. Post screen. Oh, please ensure CPU cooler is properly connected. CPU hand fitter, consider CPU. Okay. Yep, that's fine. We need to tell it that it's being water cooled. Last time it was on here, it thought it was not, but she booted! Oh my god.
Alright. Starting some benchmarks. Get the lead fan controller all dialed in. We got our temps dialed in. We got the ladder clamp dialed in. Motherboard is controlled. D4 clamp. And so controlled by the lead controller based off of the injecting temperature. With a nice curve going on. Thing is running super cool. Playing cool recently on air, obviously. So far, so good. Pretty happy with all the results. Have a lot of testing and some overclocking yet to do. I've got a lot of things out of the old rig to get it all set up and then get this thing up every while. Next time you guys see it, we'll probably do live use.
After an entire, pretty much a year and a half, almost 2 years, this build is finally done. Not only does it look phenomenal, but it runs great. We had some initial issues. I'm now about 2 weeks in on fully using it. I wanted to make sure I got all the bugs and kinks out of it, and we have. Right here is our first version, Apocalyptic. She's nice and dusty from sitting up there, but that's version 1 to version 2, as you just saw. But all the hard work and pain of going through this thing was 100% worth it. There she is, all done in her glory. We have been using her, and I've been streaming live on twitch.tv/MrToX M8. Come check it out. We've been playing Satisfactory. The 4990 handles that thing like it's not even there. I mean, the 2080 did alright too, but ultra graphics, everything maxed out. No problem whatsoever. Did a couple of my kids' racing videos. They're usually about 30 to 40 minutes, plus I put some telemetry data from the GPX files that we have from his GoPros to show like the racing, the laps, and things like that live on the screen. My old Apocalyptic 1 used to do, I did the last render that I did on that. That one took about 20 to 25 minutes. This guy did it in 6 minutes in full 4K. Absolutely a freaking beast. I'm still playing with overclocking. I don't really care about Cinebench numbers. I did run it. I think our old Cinebench numbers on this was like 20,000 or just shy of 20,000. This thing came in at like 24,000 or something like that. The results are on there. Honestly though, I'm not going for like top leaderboards or anything like that. I'm going for stability and ease of use, and right now this thing has just been working perfectly. I had a bunch of little weird issues, mainly with RAM. I did have an extra pair. I had the Dominators that we originally went with in the very beginning of this build, so I still had a pair of these that I was using as testing. I believe it ended up being the OC curve that I put on the 4090 that was actually causing the main issue. So when I took that off, things had calmed down, but it was being very selective on what games it was doing it with, mainly Satisfactory, surprisingly. But everything else was running smooth. Applications, Adobe, Lightroom, all those were just running beautifully, and I wouldn't have any actual crash issues. But since I removed the overclock settings that I had, obviously not 100% stable, at least for the RTX side of it. Our CPU, I've got it on an AI clock right now. I see about 5.5 hertz on it when it goes all the way to max, and then I see it idle around like 4.8. So I mean, I'm very happy with that. Our RAM is the Kingston Fury Renegades 48 modules by 2, so just about 98 gigs of DDR5 in there, and those are at 600. I did push those at one point to 7,000 on an OC, but I did see a little bit of weird choppiness, so I brought those back down to the 600 profile that they were on the DCOH profile. Yeah. Anyways, that's gonna wrap this video up. That's gonna wrap this build up. Extremely happy with it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And yeah, catch you guys on Twitch. Peace.